Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. In this video, we're going to take a quick look back at week 2 and recap the main slate and take a look at the research that I did and see how we fared. The winning lineup for the Millie Maker on DraftKings main slate yesterday was the following and had a score of 231.12 points. In the quarterback position, they had Patrick Mahomes, who scored 35 points, Ezekiel Elliott, who scored 23 points, Derrick Henry scored 17.30 points, wide receiver John Brown from Buffalo scored 14.20 points, wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders from Denver 28.80 points. Kansas City's third wide receiver, Robinson, scored 38.20 points. Travis Kelce at tight end for Kansas City scored 26.70 points. Miami's Preston Williams scored 10.30 points. And the Patriots defense scored 37 points. His salary, he used every bit of it, come out to an even 50,000. So he just basically optimized the best that he could. Obviously, when he got down to Williams and Robinson, he had a fairly low to really low ownership on players. Robinson was used by 0.6% of the entries in the total Millie Maker. And Williams from Miami come in at 0.61%. So he used two players that were under 1% owned. Really good pick. And it was just basically a simple three-player team stack, which he targeted the team with one of the highest implied totals, Kansas City, which had an implied total of 30 points and a game total of 52. Which was the second highest this week. So that game stack was actually Mahomes, Robinson, and Kelce. Got him a good significant amount of points. And then you pair that with like the Patriots defense would come in with 37 points, which is really high defensive score for a defense. And they were one of the top 4 projected defenses. His spend up game, well, obviously Mahomes was the most expensive quarterback, 7,500, and then he spent up a little bit for Elliott. He was one of the top 3 most expensive running backs at 8,700, and Kelce obviously was the highest price tight end at 7,300. Then he just basically balanced his lineup out. Used some game scripts. I could see why he would use Williams from Miami. Game script went exactly as the way the game went. They got blown out by New England. They were an 18 at some places it even got as high as 19 points home dog. And you're using a wide receiver in the game script of you're going to be catch up or get beat up. That's what's going to happen. Then you had John Brown in the back and forth game with Josh Allen. I liked John Brown. I didn't consider pairing him up without Josh Allen. Josh Allen does a really good pick, and I really like the Kelce pick. Truthfully, I don't like to go above 60 to 75% on any one player, but Kelce was a player yesterday that I could have felt comfortable being 90% owned in contests that I played. That's an all or nothing deal. If you go down in the first quarter like Drew Brees did yesterday, then all your lineups are basically dead with the negative points. As far as the research that I provided last week and the player pool that I created, I was basically able to break even. Kind of funny at the midway point before the 4 o'clock games, I was sitting at not even a dollar over that I had won. And then I had a lot of the players from those 2 games. They were the 2 games that had the highest implied totals, and I used a lot of players from those games, and then that's how I made up my the money that I had invested in my lineups. Elliott from Dallas, Brown from Buffalo, Kelsey and the Patriots were all a part of my player pool, which were on the winning Millie Maker. So that's 4 of the 9. And like I said, I had the most exposure on all my lineups to Kelsey. I very rarely spend up for tight end, but I really liked that matchup yesterday. I liked what the past history showed. I liked what the game script was going to be. Sometimes people, when they're putting together their lineups, they think that they have to get the players that are going to be. You get focused on the players that are going to be having to score points, come back, and forget about the players that build up leads. They have to score points in order to build up those leads. They might not play the full 4 quarters, in a really big blowout, but they had to score some amount of points to get there. And Kelsey had a pretty good, what they call floor, and pretty high scoring game yesterday. Overall, looking back at the players that did fairly well in the player pool that I provided last week, Josh Allen scored 22.22 points. Jared Goff scored 20.12 points. I was really high on Jared Goff as well. Derrick Henry, 17.36 points. Saquon Barkley, I liked Saquon a lot. Problem with Barkley yesterday is it was really hard to get Barkley and Kelsey in your lineup. And Barkley's going to be high priced every week. He was $9,200 this week. Ezekiel Elliott scored 23 points. Dalvin Cook, I liked him a lot. 31 points, and he could have been a nice pivot off of Saquon. He actually scored more than Saquon, and he was $2,000 less. Wide receivers, I mentioned right off the bat on my wide receiver video that I wanted all 3 receivers from the Rams. Now, the order that I had them wasn't exact. I liked Woods, Kupp, and Cooks. I believe it ended up being, let's see here. Well, Kupp scored 20.60 points. Cook scored 16.60 points. And I think Woods had 10 or 14. I didn't have him wrote down because he wasn't one of the top. But Kupp had 20.60 points. Boyd from Cincinnati, 25.20 points. I had him game script. Definitely was the way that I thought it would be. Main target for Dalton coming back. I did like Michael Thomas. I had him in the player pool, scored 18.90 points, and we all know what happened. And it's part of fantasy football. It's just when Breeze went out, I was really worried about what was going to happen with Thomas, but he did end up scoring 18.90 points. Williams from Oakland, I was really high on him. He scored 15 points. The game script was there. I think after the 28-point explosion by the Chiefs and Mahomes in the second quarter, it kind of broke their spirit because the Raiders had multiple chances in the second half to put some points and some points on the board, but the game script was there. They just didn't get it done. As I mentioned, tight end Kelsey, 26.7 points. Waller, tight end from Oakland, he didn't score that high. He did get 12 points, which is almost four times value for his salary. I did have the Patriots in my player pool as well as the Texans. Texans didn't do bad; they scored 10 points, but when you have the Patriots sitting there at 37 points, if you didn't have the Patriots yesterday, it was going to be awful hard to be competitive. An optimal lineup using just the players from the pool that I provided and I recapped them on the strategy show on Saturday. An optimal lineup, meaning taking the players that did well and putting together the best possible lineup out of that you could have, would have been Allen from Buffalo, Henry from Tennessee, Cooks from Minnesota, Kupp from the Rams, Boyd from Cincinnati, Williams from the Raiders, Kelsey from Kansas City, Waller from Oakland, and the Patriots defense. That score would have been 207.48. That's the best that you could have done, and the salary would have been $49,700. That lineup in the Millie Maker, if I would have had that particular lineup, would have gave me 15 times my entry fee, $300. So it was a $20 entry. I've had 2 weeks in a row where the quarterback bug has bit me. Last week I was really high on Foles, and he goes down as a result of throwing a touchdown pass. That was the only points he got. And then Breeze yesterday, I liked Breeze because of the high total and the game script. And he went down, scoring, I believe it was minus 23 points. And I liked Carr a lot this week. And like I said, the game script was there. When they jumped out in the second quarter, I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. I did mention that I was a little bit lower on Josh Jacobs this week for the Raiders. He was one of the highest owned running backs yesterday because of his price and what they call recency bias. Everybody seen what he did on Monday night, and he's coming in with a low salary. Everybody knows the Chiefs are not great against the run, so plug him in your lineups, and there you go. But the thing that I was worried about, which did pan out, was the fact that on Monday night he didn't catch a lot of passes because he didn't have to, but the game script, as far as they have another running back that they like to use in the passing game, and that's Richards. And when they fell behind 28-10 at half, they had to switch to the run or the passing game. Jacobs did end up scoring, I believe it was 9 point something points. However, I believe that 51 of that was on one carry. Still 90 some points, but I wasn't as high. I didn't want him as much as everyone else had him. I was really high on Barkley, which is a given week in and week out. Anybody that plays fantasy football knows what Saquon Barkley is to his team. I am a Dallas Cowboy fan, but with fantasy football, I am able to separate my my heart from my head. I don't root for other teams in NFC East, but again, when it comes to fantasy football, I know that Saquon Barkley is a major point getter if you can get up and get to him with the salary. Some other players that I was expecting to do better and they just did not do better. Connor for Pittsburgh. I believe Connor's effectiveness was due in part by Ben going out and the way the game script went. Seattle was able to concentrate more on the running game. Rudolph didn't do bad filling in for Roethlisberger, but I feel like that did affect Connor's output. Sony Michel from New England, game script was there. You basically know better than to mess with a New England backfield and try to guess what Belichick's going to do. I did it anyway. Thought that the game script, huge lead that they would pound, and he just didn't get it done. 13 points. Schuster from Pittsburgh, another player that I feel like was affected by Roethlisberger. He did catch a touchdown from Rudolph, but the points weren't there for as far as getting value for his salary. Kittle was a big letdown in Cincinnati. With the amount of points that they scored, you'd think that Kittle would put up a lot more points than I believe it was 8.40 points. He's another one just didn't get it done this week. They utilized a different game plan and really beat up on the Bengals. And now the Bengals are upset because their fans are booing them. Waller from the Raiders, another player in that Chiefs Oakland game. He was fairly high owned, and the game script was there. Oakland had the opportunities, but just for whatever reason, he didn't get it done. High totals, game scripts, projections, it's all variable. And this week again, looking back at the top scoring wide receivers, the top receivers bust a lot. The guy that won the Millie Makers, congratulations to him putting together the picks that he did. And looking back, it's when you look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, it looks so easy. And I could have had that lineup. It's just putting it in the contest and press and submit. Good for him. $1 million in his bank account today. Hopefully, there were some of you that were able to take the picks that I did provide and use some of them as your core picks and put some of the other higher scoring players in. And hopefully you realized a profit or at least broke even or somewhat close. I don't know how many of you actually participate in the Showdown slates. It's a way of playing. I started last year. I'm not sure if it actually started last year, but I started playing it last year. And there's a little strategy to it. It's different, obviously, than main slate fantasy football. And I was going to do just a quick lineup. And game script is very, very important in this particular contest. Things like wide receivers and running backs show up in the captain spot. The captain spot gets you 1.5 points. It also costs you 1.5 points or 1.5 the salary. And for instance, if you're going to put a quarterback in your captain, it makes sense to match up if you're going to put a wide receiver in the captain, it makes sense to match up the quarterback in the flex because you have you have 6 spots. You have to have at least one player from each team. And then you had to have the same $50,000 salary. Let's see if I'd match up another receiver. So if I had Beckham in the captain, Mayfield in the flex with his other receiver, basically saying they're going to put the ball in the air, and then go down and find a player for the Jets. Simeon is the quarterback if you wanted to do that. Then you can go down and find a cheap kicker. And that leaves you 500, which is not a lot. So you have to go down in the hope section. And Hilliard's out. He's the second running back for the Browns. The backup running back for the Browns. And Johnson will be in there this week. There's $200. And that's just an example. With this game script I have Beckham in the captain spot. His matchup is pretty favorable against the Jets. The Jets are really banged up tonight. And pair him up with Mayfield and Landry. And bring him back with if they build a lead, then Simeon's gonna have to put the ball in the air. If you think Cleveland's going to score a lot of points, then you can bring the kicker in. The kickers have a really nice floor. You're gonna, unless the game ends up 0-0, you're gonna get probably some kind of points out of them. And then to fill in the salary, go to a backup running back, and that's pretty simple. You can really get into it as far as the game script. I play a little bit of it just to have something to do while watching the game. I just play around here. See if I wanted to, like I said, it's usually a running back or wide receiver that ends up in the winning captain spot. Last night, I was watching, and pretty sad. One guy with less than 2 minutes to go was winning $370,000. He had 3 of the top 4 places, and one play, that Julio Jones play there at the end of the game, dropped him from $370,000 to $268. And this was a multiple entry contest. It was a $10 entry contest, and you could play up to 150 lineups. So if he did that and won 268, that's a pretty good loss. If you wanted to, so if I wanted to put Chubb in there as my, just for an example, playing around building these lineups, Chubb, say that Cleveland's not gonna have to rely on their passing game too much to. Now, if I have a running back in my captain, I don't like to use the quarterback with him. If I think that the running back's going to get me all my points, then I'm not. Game script tells me not that I don't have to rely on the passing game too. You can do it. Not saying it would never work out, but that's just the game script that I use. And bring that back with they build up a lead. If we brought in the Browns defense and bring that back with the quarterback and Anderson from the Jets. Maybe you can plug in Le'Veon Bell. Pay real close attention to Le'Veon Bell tonight. He still has, well, first off, Sam Darnold's out with mono, and let's see. We got Le'Veon Bell here. The last I is listed as questionable for Monday night's game against the Browns. So it's real iffy, but one thing you could do there is you have $2,800 left. You could actually go back down and plug in his backup. So that's just some ways that you can play around with it. I wanted to mention it. I might go a little bit more in depth. I wasn't planning to do that. I just started this video last week. This week I'm going to break it down as the following. Tomorrow I'm going to take a first look at quarterbacks, Wednesday running backs, Thursday wide receiver, Friday tight end and defense special team, and then wrap it up and put a nice big bow on it on Saturday, and hopefully have some better results next Sunday. Thank you for your time and watching. If you got any value out of this, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. Let you know when my videos are posting, and I'll talk to you guys real soon. Have a good evening.